So yesterday I finished watching the second episode of HBO's The Last of Us. 2 seconds, I'm going to take this off, I'm boiling. And just as a little disclaimer, I will be talking about spoilers that happen in this episode. I won't be talking about anything that happens later on, obviously, but there will be alludes to that. So first thing I want to say, because this has very much been on my mind, the casting and decisions and things around these things. First episode, I didn't really mind it, but in this episode, it was really, really apparent to me how different, that's what I'm going to say, Abby's casting is. Because I was watching Daz's walkthrough of The Last of Us just as a little refresh, and Abby in the show is distractingly, is how I call it, small. Like, distractingly so. You very much can tell how small she physically is. Because the actress that plays Abby is Caitlin Dever, and she is 5'1.5", 5'2". So very, very small. And just as a comparison, Bella Ramsey, who plays Ellie, is 1.56 meters tall, which is literally like, she's basically almost the same height. Because in the game, Abby is about 5'8", maybe 5'9", but that's kind of at a stretch. And people have speculated she's around 170, 180 pounds because she's just built like Brock Lesnar. And the height differential is even more apparent when you compare it to her co-star, Spencer Lord, who plays Owen. Whereas in the game, Abby is about 5'8", and Owen is about 5'10", let's say. I'll show pictures of what their actual heights are in the game and in the show, because in the show, Spencer Lord, who plays Owen, is, I'm going to say he's about 6 foot or maybe a little bit over, because he is a full head height and a little bit more than Caitlin Dever, who plays Abby. So when you look at that, it's like the height differential is massive compared to them. And when I saw, generally, when they first popped up on screen and Caitlin was there, Abby, and Owen was there, and you just see the difference, and he's literally double her size, whereas in the game, she's literally just wider than him and just a little bit shorter. So it's a little bit off-putting, I can't lie. Now, moving on from the little height tirade, the actual story is similar. The overall structure of it is basically the exact same. However, there are changes. There are changes and then there are changes. And what I mean by that is there are still the groups that are going out and the different things happen. They still find the weed farm and they still make it to the lodge. However, there are very big differences in who goes and other things that happen as well. For example, it's Dina and Joel that end up actually going out to their section of the thing, and it's Ellie and Jesse who end up going over to Eugene's weed farm. And Tommy is not even out there. He's literally just left in the town because the town ends up getting raided by 500,000 goddamn infected. And the only problems I have with this is it changes the dynamic a little bit of the certain characters. They're not necessarily bad changes apart from one, which is Ellie and Dina, because that means their relationship we never see the progression because they end up shagging in the weed farm after getting high, and Jesse finds them and that's when they then go to Joel. That's the only problem I have. It doesn't further their relationship anymore, so I expect in the next episode or further episodes after, it can't be too many episodes after, or it just doesn't happen at all, which I don't think is a good thing, because you need to show their closeness together and their partnership together, especially because what comes later on. And not having Tommy in the room where Joel actually dies because they have to knock him out. The same thing happens, but Dina gets tranquilized instead, full on Dexter in her neck. Not in her neck, it was in her thing, but Dexter uses the neck. Anyway, she gets knocked the fuck out with her tranquilizer, which works immediately. Literally getting that Dexter stuff. And then Joel obviously gets tortured by Abby. And not having Tommy in the room where Joel dies changes the dynamics a little bit, because it means Tommy then has to end up finding out that Joel has died. So he has that on him, whereas he was knocked out in the room where it happened, so he feels a little bit closer to it, I guess, in that aspect. But that's just a different dynamic on how they're going to change that. So it's not necessarily worse or better. And And just like in the game where Tommy sees the WLF badge just before getting knocked out, and Ellie and him talk about it after the fact, Dina is the one that sees the WLF badge on the people who are trying to kill Joel, and the camera literally zooms in onto it so you know exactly what's happening right before she ends up getting knocked out, so that's their excuse that she's seen it. And as all this is happening, I'm telling you, the entire North comes after the town, fully led by the Night King in the form of a big fat fucking bloater. I'm telling you, this boy was big and he was walking through these streets like he owned it. Not to mention, if he wasn't there, none of the infected would have gotten past the walls, and the amount of ammo and just flames that they were pouring on this amount of goddamn infected. Because earlier in the episode they explained that the infected were hiding underneath other dead infected to keep warm and keep the permafrost off them, so that they were still alive and waking. And Jesse even makes a joke that there could potentially even be thousands underneath all the ice and the dead infected, which turns out to be true. And I'm telling you, there's thousands of these with a big F in front of it. Thousands, maybe even tens of thousands, because it looked mental. And for some reason, I guess they just stopped going after Joel, because you kind of assume that half the horde goes after Joel and Abby and Dina, and the rest come to just fuck up the town. And something I didn't like, it's just a classic trope that happens in shows and TV, is when Tommy decides that him being the leader of the town, he can just walk into the middle of the horde that is invading the town and go straight after the Night King himself. So he gets the attention of the big fat bloater and he runs into an alleyway where he is cornered, and of course, the only one thing that follows him is the king, is the bloater that's leading the rest of the horde, which is what you assume. The king leads the pawns, so yeah, but unfortunately none of the pawns come and help him. So it's literally just a 1v1. And what wins? An infected big fucker or fire? You take a guess. And the tropey thing that I hate that happens is, of course, he slips. I hate it every single time this happens. Characters just shouldn't slip, and if they do, because everyone makes mistakes, you're allowed to slip. If there's a big fucking monster in front of me, right, I am springing up like the floor's lava, understand? I'm getting my arse halfway near the permafrost at the crystallization of that snow, and I'm jolting back up like a spring chicken. That's what's happening with me, and I'm getting the fuck out of there. Especially in the game when a bloater, you can run rings around that man and he can just not hit you. He's slow as shit. He's a big, powerful, big boy, but he's slow as shit. Tommy could easily have just darted around this man, but no, he decides to fall back and accept his fate after burning this fucker for about 5 minutes straight of just pure gas in this man's gooch. So after a few more dramatic seconds of you thinking the bloater might still be functional and about to kill Tommy, it then succumbs to the flames and all the infected dies inside of it, and Tommy then helps the rest of the town to take out the entire fucking horde that's invaded inside. So the town is saved. The actual ending to the episode is quite very similar to how it happens in the game. However, there's a few differences, let's say, where in the game Abby simply turns the golf club around and then finishes Joel off, turning into squashed tomatoes, but in this it's a little bit different. I can't remember if they showed if she had actually snapped the golf club herself or it was already pre-snapped, but if it wasn't, then I have to assume that she ended up breaking the club, beating Joel that badly, and she ends up simply just stabbing this man in the neck with half of this golf club, which I assume she had been beating him so badly with that it snapped in half, and she just used the other end to stab him in the neck. So quite a bit different to the game. I guess it's a little bit more gory, especially when after they all leave, leaving Ellie alive, because it happens basically the exact same in the game as in the game. She comes in, they put her down, and then Owen asks Abby to just end it, and she does. She stabs him in the neck. Ellie sees, crying, blah blah blah. Ellie then has to take it out, and the episode basically ends with her crying over Joel, even though it actually ends with them dragging his corpse via the horses. So yeah, the overall direction of the episode hasn't changed at all compared to the game. However, the way it went about it and the other certain things that happened, like the invasion of the town and stuff, just never happened in the game. Didn't exist. There were not 500,000 walkers. But I guess that's a result of the different ways that the cordyceps works in this universe, whereas it's not spores, it's the roots, and it's how this thing sort of lives instead of kind of just existing out. So it's interesting in the routes that they take around these things. Haha, roots. Love puns. But yeah, overall I thought this was a really good episode. I did like it. I thought there was a good amount of tension and things. I just really hope that they end up advancing the dynamics of like Ellie and Dina and their relationship, so that the way that they end up later on is the way that they end. Try not to spoil too much, but how they handled like Joel's actual demise, I think it was good. And yeah, I don't know, that it's kind of bittersweet in the sense that I thought it was a good ending and it made sense, but I'm still not over the fact that Abby, she just wasn't at all scary or intimidating at all. I'm sorry, she can't be. Either you're small and you are ridiculously feisty and so hateful, you can believe that no matter how big they are, they're terrifying. But she just doesn't have that quality to her. She's too righteous about her decision in trying to kill Joel for you to believe that she's that bad and evil of a person to make that decision. Whereas in the game, her physicality simply just brings that. Her being as big as she is and the reasons behind her being that big simply to go after Joel and as a metaphor for her revenge, you're simply just intimidated by that fact. But her being literally 5 foot goddamn one, she isn't hateful. Let me rephrase, she isn't so spiteful and evil in her hate of Joel that you can be intimidated by her with the lack of her physical presence. It doesn't add up. I'll give an example of like, goddamn, I don't know, Joffrey. You hate this man, he's a weak, measly little kid, and you still despise this man so much by what he does. And physicality has nothing to do with it, because Tyrion can still slap the bitch out of this little kid. And it's also the fact of just the presence and the evilness of his decisions make you fear him and intimidated by him every time he's on screen, because you know how much power he has, even when physically he's so weak compared to other characters that can just fuck him. But you're still scared for the big characters, even when this kid's small. So overall, I thought very, very good episode. Definitely one of the best episodes that they've made out of this series overall, 100%. I just hope that they have the Ellie and Dina relationship explained more and go into more detail. Probably next episode is when I assume that's going to happen. And yeah, I just thought some things were a little goofy. The bit in the town with Tommy. I like the portrayal of how dangerous the infected actually are, because until this point, I know how dangerous clickers and things are, but having them breaking to the shops and things and reach the rooftops where the shooters are from, because in the meeting where Tommy's talking to everyone, I definitely got the sense that, oh, if you get to the second floor and you have your guns, you are safe as shit. You can sit back in that lovely cold ass sun and just chillax. Shoot a few shots, they ain't gonna touch you. Nah, these things got through those windows, up them stairs, through those doors immediately, and they were RKOing people off these buildings straight down into the streets. You were not safe at all. Even Maria was goddamn having people taken out in front of her and she had to run down and shit. That shit was tense and that shit was good. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this episode. Let me know, because you've had some time to think over it. I know it's been a few days, but I've only just watched it last night, so yeah. Let me know what you think of what I have said and my opinions towards these things. Do you like Abby? Do you like Ellie's portrayal in how they did this? What do you think about Ellie and Dina's relationship? Yeah, just let me know. And yeah, thank you for watching, and bye.